All right, Patriots, who is ready to rock and or roll as the situation may require? Thank you so much. Appreciate you checking in, stopping into the building. If you're in the chat, let's have a quick look-see there. What we got? Look at what it's looking like here. I got some names. I got some folks. We're just now going live, and we've got about 112 people and counting checking out the chat, or checking out the show, I should say. The live chat. I've got CAD0826. I've got Rum JC. I've got I Am Roz. I got Lois Irene. I got JTY Masuk, maybe? I don't want to mispronounce somebody's name. Apologies for that. Joanne is in. Jay Hammer is in. Ben is in. Meg is in. Keep them coming. Johnson M31 is in. Good to have you here. Now, Johnson just forced me to give you the news the way it is by saying, "Good morning, Senator Marino. I apologize for the off-topic question, but can we please pass a bill to make it illegal to refuse to accept cash for services? Colleges are by far the worst." All right, Johnson, you forced me to let you know this. Senator Marino, I'm going to read it to you directly. He's going to be on. Let me chill that out right now. It's not as if he's not going to be on, but obviously I promoted Senator Marino in our chat today being in the 10 o'clock hour, but I got a notification from his scheduler and assistant this morning that he might have to push it back to around 11 o'clock because of a very important call that he's on. That's okay, no problem. I'll tell the folks we're going to have Senator Marino at 11 o'clock. Then I just got this from Senator Marino himself, saying, and this was just about 8 minutes ago, "I got sucked into a huge call to fix healthcare. Can we do 11:30 a.m.? And of course, no, Senator, no. If you're not on my time, how about some priorities here? You're trying to fix the broken health system for millions and millions of Americans, and you've got Bob France waiting? What the hell, dude? Priorities, huh? All right. I gave him a little bit of grace. I said, okay, you can get back into your call about fixing 350 million people's health insurance, and I can wait until 11:30. So I hope you will extend to me the same grace that I am giving to Senator Bernie Moreno. We've got to wait a little bit. So Senator's going to be on around, it may be earlier. The original thought was the call was going to end around 10:15, so I was going to bring him in around 10:20. That's why I said 10 o'clock-ish. But then, like I said, things started to change. This call started to extend. Then they told me 11, and now they said it may go past that. Let's all do emoji prayer hands. Does this look pretty much like what it is, right? Do a little emoji prayer hands with me. Put them in the chat, prayer hands up. I hope the call doesn't last past 11:30 and he is gone by, isn't able to join us by the time we're done at noon. I'll stay on with him if he can't do it until noon. I will. We'll stay on. We'll do a 3-hour live show. I don't care. But Senator Marino is on, quote, "a huge call to fix healthcare issue. Can we do 11:30 a.m.? And my actual response to him was, absolutely anything you need. Just let me know. And so we've got it. That's the way we're going to do it. So in the meantime, we're going to have somebody else on this morning that I was going to bump till the 11 o'clock hour when I thought Bernie was coming on in the 10. We're going to talk to Jeff Skinner. You probably don't know Jeff Skinner. You might know if you're an Ohio resident and you're a Northeast Ohio resident to boot, checking out, strictly speaking, Unfiltered. You might know of the Ohio Register, which is his site. But Jeff is going to be in. And here, I'll just, let's do the share thing, huh? Jeff has a really important piece out this morning that I wanted to talk about anyway. If I can find it. Yeah, here it is. So we'll share this one with you just so we can get ourselves launched this morning. This is the Ohio Register, and it's on the homepage right now. There it is. Columbus judge stops DeWine administration from using unclaimed funds for Brown Stadium. You know that story, of course. It was very controversial, whether the $600 million should come from, in the form of a loan. So let's be fair about this. We'll talk to Jeff. But in the form of a loan, the $600 million to the Haslams for the new stadium in Brook Park was going to come from the unclaimed funds account, which is apparently a couple $2 billion deep in money that nobody seems to be able to go after or wants to go after or knows that's even there. I don't know. But it was agreed upon by the state legislature, the General Assembly. It was approved by Governor DeWine, and that's the way it was going to be. But obviously, we know that a lot of people have different opinions about Brown Stadium. First of all, going to Brook Park at all. Second of all, about why it is that a billionaire family, a billionaire husband and wife can't fund their own whole stadium. Why do you need a $600 million kick-in from the taxpayers of the state of Ohio? So it's a pretty big deal. So Jeff Skinner is going to come on here in about 25 minutes or so. We're going to have him around 10:30. At least that's the plan. He'll take us up until we're done talking about it. But I want, we'll ask you questions. By the way, are you noticing these whenever I drop them in during the shows, those who have been here? By the way, we're in week number 3, still in the infancy of this live stream show. So we're still feeling our way through it. I'm looking at all of the different features. Can you see these, and do you see these when I pop them up on the screen? You should see it now in the lower corner. I kind of pre-write these because these are topics I want you to address in the chat every day. But as you can see in the lower left part of the screen there, it says, should the Browns get the money? Answer in the chat. Should they get we're talking about the $600 million. Should they do that at all? So I'm dropping these things in occasionally. This one will be dropped in when I get a little bit closer to Senator Moreno. What question do you have for him? Ask in the chat, and I will ask those questions of him. I drop this in from time to time. Don't forget to email the link to this channel to 10 friends. Send an email, send a text message to 10 friends. You've got to have 10 Patriot friends who don't know that this show is on, who need to know. Send it to them, inform them, tell them to like, follow, and subscribe. Speaking of which, just realized this is another good reminder I should throw up there. Slam the thumbs up button and help us beat the algorithm. Yeah, this is kind of cool, actually. What I mean by cool is this is something that I can do in real time. I wouldn't be able to do on the radio because you have no idea what the heck I'm talking about. But doing this on camera, doing on the screen, is very helpful. So yeah, what I just put up there was a reminder to slam the thumbs up button. It helps us, seriously. Every time we get a good crowd of people in here watching, there's up to 180 people in here watching right now. I don't know how many are in the chat, but it's growing. And when we only see 1 or 2, thumbs up buttons being hit, the like buttons being hit, that's bad for us with respect to the algorithm. If a bunch of people are watching, but people don't say they like it and don't use the comment section to comment on it, then it doesn't do well for us as far as pushing it out to other people in the algorithm. So I'll drop that in from time to time as well. I just want you to be aware of that. And as long as we're on the screen issues, don't forget, keep an eye on the crawl at the bottom of the page. Tell 10 friends to help the channel grow. See if you can find your way clear to donate to the cause so that we can make this endeavor possible to last in the long term. Because if we don't get that, it's completely Patriot funded, then we won't be here for the long term. So keep those comments coming in, and don't forget to slam that like button on your way in the door. That's all I ask. Looks like 43 people so far out of 187 who are watching have hit the like button. So we need to get that to 187 and eventually 250, and all the people that are going to be here watching live today. So as you can see, we are over our 1,000 follower benchmark we were looking for. We got that. It's the first step to on the road to 10K, and that is the goal. How do I get to 10K? I just told you. Like, follow, subscribe, and share. Share it with other people and make sure you're helping us beat the algorithms. All right. So like I said, our number one story of the day was going to be the interview with Bernie Moreno. It still will be. It's just going to be later in the day. It's going to be around 11:30 or so is what we are told. We're going to keep getting updates, or I'm going to keep getting updates from the senator and his scheduling assistant. When he's done with his healthcare call, he will come on with us and answer all of the questions you're going to put in the chat. There's one from JT. To the senator, what is he going to do to prevent the spread of Islam in this country? Well, I don't know if there's any one thing any one person can do in the Senate to stop the spread of Islam, but you damn well better believe it's on his mind. I know it is. because the Islamic community, particularly in this case, since we're talking about the biggest story in the country, here in the state of Ohio too, the Somalian community, it's a wrecking ball. The Somalian community is a wrecking ball. It is just destroying so much in the United States of America. If you didn't, I posted this on my Facebook page too, so it's a little bit easier access. But if you haven't yet seen it, and something's grinding and grinding and grinding right now on my Facebook page, I'm going to reload it. But I talked about this a little bit yesterday. 89% of Somalians. Yeah, let me share this tab with you super quick. 89% of Somali immigrants in this country. There it is, and I posted this last night along with the source. Are on welfare. 89%. That's extraordinary. But what's more extraordinary is the next line down, as you can see. After 10 years of living a decade to get your together, a decade to get a job, to figure it out, to not need to live off of the welfare of others and the largesse of others. A decade, they're still on welfare after 10 years, 86% of them. And the source for that, like I said, I posted the source in the comments here. And this is the source. This is CIS, Center for Immigration Studies. They did an extensive study from 2014 to 2024. And this is the reality. When they started pouring in during the Obama administration, talking about Somali nationals coming in by the hundreds of thousands, this is what they're doing. Over the course of that period of time, a decade in now, 2014 to 2024, 86% of them are still on welfare. And then you'll see some of the specifics. Cash assistance, only 6% of Native households with children are on cash assistance. 23% of the Somali communities are. 21% of them 10 years on. Food stamps, 10% Native populations, Native households. 62% Somali households with kids getting food stamps. 54% getting, 50% after 10 years, still getting food stamps. And then over on the Medicaid side, 28% use it who are Native households, 86% and 83% still on Medicaid after 10 years in the country. I don't know about you, and I probably do know about you, but that crap has got to stop. And if that's one of the reasons for the question you're talking about for Bernie Moreno, it's a good question. That's one I'll make sure to ask him. So that's just kind of where we are. So if you just tuned in and you got my email this morning, by the way, are you subscribed to the email newsletter yet? Yeah. If you're on the newsletter subscription list, you got a notification this morning about 7:15 that said Senator Moreno is going to be on with us live in the 10 o'clock hour. So if you just now are logging on and getting into the chat, Senator Moreno is in a very important call right now about healthcare, which of course, day after tomorrow, it's 2026. Day after tomorrow, everybody's healthcare premiums go straight through the roof because of Obamacare's language and because of the subsidies being given a sunset date. And now the Democrats just want to extend that date. And the Republicans are saying, no, we can't just do that. And of course we cannot. All that does is enrich the insurers who respond by raising the rates. Doesn't make any sense. Republicans want to change it. Bernie Moreno's on a call to change it right now. And he literally, that was the text message if you just tuned in again. He said, I got sucked into a huge call to fix healthcare issue. Can we do 11:30 instead? And my answer to Bernie Moreno was, of course. So he will be on with us roughly around 11:30. If it's 10 minutes early, you don't want to miss it. Be here. If it's 10 minutes late, well, stick around. Don't give up because he's going to be here. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's what we've got on the table. Senator Moreno is going to be on at about 11:30, and we're going to talk to Jeff Skinner from the Ohio Register about that Brown story coming up here in about 10 minutes or so. And by the way, I already jumped on the chat there, and some people are already weighing in on that too, about the Browns thing. No, the Browns are a private. Sharon says, no, the Browns are a private company and should not get unclaimed taxpayer-owned money. Where is the common sense? Jim from Parmite said, no public money for the Browns. Okay. I think this is going to be a popular opinion, quite frankly. A lot of people feel like the billionaires should pay for their own stadium. And you know what? They're paying for most of it, to my understanding. Well, I'll confirm all that with Jeff, but they're paying for most of it. But they want basically a bit of a public kick-in on it because the proposal, the project, the stadium, the dome is going to be, a revenue driver for everybody. Tax revenue is going to be up, not just for the city of Brook Park, but for Ohio and so on and so forth. So everybody's going to benefit. So they should be a bit of a public buy-in, skin in the game kind of a thing. So that's what we'll talk about with Jeff Skinner in a few minutes. What I want to do now, though, before we get into it, all of that stuff, is kind of give you a little bit of an update on yesterday's progress. Yesterday, we did a lot on the fraud, the Minnesota and Twin Cities fraud by way of daycare centers, transportation companies, healthcare centers, all of whom serve no one. They got transportation center buses that sit there and never leave, and they've been documented by people with cameras. They never leave. And in the wintertime, there's no tracks of these buses going to, do transportation things. You got healthcare centers that are completely empty, no children whatsoever. So all of that fraud that was exposed has led to a lot of action, a lot of activity on Capitol Hill, where some are saying it's time to take drastic steps. Among these, some are Chip Roy. Chip Roy is a congressman from Texas, and he wants to be actually the next attorney general in the state of Texas. He says that in response to this, and we'll tie it to Ohio momentarily, if you're an Ohio watcher, and right now we have primarily Ohio viewers. Nobody else knows we're on yet across the country because, again, this is where we have to defeat the algorithms and push this out by continuing to subscribe, and follow the show. But for Ohio people who know, Columbus is in the same sort of situation, which means we need to act on a national or a federal level. And to that end, Chip Roy has said it's time to not just crack down on and stop illegal immigration. Chip Roy says we need to stop all immigration, legal and illegal. It's time for a pause. Tell me what you think of this.
We've got to pause immigration. I introduced a bill to pause immigration because we've got to stop this massive abuse of our system, using H-1Bs, using diversity visas. President Trump is exactly right to have frozen the diversity visas, to have stopped that, to freeze the flow from countries of concern. Remember that in 1920, when we had a high percentage of people that were foreign born, we froze immigration for 40 years. And our country vanquished, the Nazis in Germany, freed the world. We did great things in those 40 years. We can do it again. That's why I introduced legislation to pause immigration. The president's right to do that, and I'm supporting him in that effort.
This is one of the conversations that we're going to have with Bernie Moreno in the second hour. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about pausing immigration, and we're going to talk about, quite frankly, not just pausing the allowance of people to come into the country, but start up or put on a faster track the removal of people from the country. And I'm not just talking about deportation of illegal immigrants like we're doing now. Chip Roy is talking about doing much, much more than that. Chip Roy is talking about, and where is the second Chip Roy bite? There it is. Chip Roy is talking about denaturalization. What is denaturalization? Well, you know what it means to be a naturalized citizen. You are a foreigner who comes to the United States and earns citizenship. You become a naturalized citizen. He's saying strip them of their naturalization, especially if they're people like Jihad Omar.
This is one of the other things that we need to address is the extent to which members of Congress find themselves getting wealthy while they're in Congress. In this case, it appears by being completely in bed with all of the fraudulent activity that's going on in Minnesota. Of course, we should investigate this. Of course, should we look into what they're scrubbing from their website. I think we've got to explore this as far as we can, including potentially looking into denaturalizing and removing Ilhan Omar if she's violated our laws. Mm-hmm. And by the way, we should also ban stock trading among members of Congress, since we're talking about the wealth of Congress, and I have a bill to do that, and I hope we will do that next year. Mike Johnson, the Speaker, is working with us to do that. We have got to stop all of this flow of dollars that is corrupting our system, empower the American people to do what they do best, and we've got to pause immigration.
Pause immigration altogether. Again, I think he's spot on about that. But yes, you heard, denaturalize people like Jihad Omar. And I'm sorry, I know her name is Ilhan, but to me, I will always see Jihad when I see Ilhan Omar. So, that's what I think some of the responses from Congress should be. Here's one more I want to share with you. This is James Comer. He's the chairman of the Oversight Committee, because in addition to removing people and pausing immigration, if we're going to have people like these Somalians coming in and completely ripping off the United States taxpayer, We definitely need to do those things, but we also need to hold accountable those responsible for the crime, for the fraud, for the grift. We need to start seeing, zip ties on some risks and prosecutions and handcuffs and jail sentences. It's the only way to actually deal with this. So, James Comer, what are you going to do with oversight?
Tell us about who you're bringing in, who you want to see on Capitol Hill, and what questions do you want to ask them?
Well, the most important people are the state whistleblowers, the state employees who put that tweet out that we all are familiar with a few weeks ago that alerted America to the massive fraud. These state employees also allege that they had warned both Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison for years that this fraud was occurring, and yet nothing was taking place. So we're going to bring the state employees in. We're going to get their sworn testimony. We appreciate their bravery in coming forward. We're also going to bring in state lawmakers and Minnesota mayors, because the walls are caving in on Tim Walz. This massive amount of fraud is affecting and impacting every citizen of Minnesota, because they're having to cut services because so much of the money for social programs was wasted and defrauded by this Somali population. So these are the people we're going to bring in. We're going to try to identify who was responsible for this. We're going to try to identify banks that we can subpoena their bank records so we can follow the money to see how much was taken, who took it, and then who do we need to hold accountable, and hopefully we'll have some criminal referrals at the end of the investigation.
The only thing I don't like about what I just heard from James Comer is the word hopefully. It can't be hopefully, it has to be absolutely will be done. There need to be criminal referrals. There need to be prosecutions. There needs to be convictions, and there needs to be lengthy sentences. You want to stop corruption, start freaking holding corrupt people accountable. The only reason the corruption that continues on the scale that it does, and I don't care what side of the aisle it occurs on, if there's no gosh damned accountability, there's no deterrence from committing the same crime. It's like the death penalty, to the extent that we can make this comparison. The reason why people who are for the death penalty are, and I'm one of them, is because of the deterrence factor. It deters other people. If they see people swinging from branches, and I mean that literally, of course, it's lethal injections or whatever, but if they see people committing horrific crimes, losing their lives because of it, it will deter people. The reason the death penalty is not a deterrence right now is because it doesn't happen fast enough. They just put somebody to death in Texas last week who committed a crime in like 1983. Like what? Honestly, that's not going to deter anybody, right? You've got to see people suffering the consequences of their choices if you want to stop other people from making those choices. And when it comes to government corruption, same story. Investigate, yeah, you've got to do a thorough investigation. You got to make sure everything is on the up and up. You got to make sure everything is thorough and right. But at the end of the day, there needs to be criminal referrals and there needs to be prosecutions, especially when the cases and the evidence in these cases are as overwhelming as they are, like in Minnesota. And this is one of the reasons we're going to talk to Bernie Moreno next hour. Ohio, here is one for you you have not seen yet. I told you yesterday that there were examples of this, and we were going to try to expose them as much as we could. And here is one of them, just in case you're tired of the Minneapolis story. Okay, how about the Columbus story? So let me share this one with you. Here we go. So this is obviously a post from X. More investigative journalism in Columbus, and yet again, Somalian-owned daycares with no children. It's the second largest Somali community in the United States, and many more daycares and learning centers have been found with no kids. All have no kids. Here's that one.
It's a daycare center owned by Somalians and stuff like that.
Have you ever seen any kids in this place here?
No, not that I know of. I just seen it, the building itself. I've never seen nobody come out the building or go in the building.
You've never seen anybody over there?
No, not at all.
So right now we are in front of the Great Minds Learning Academy. This is one of the many daycare centers, learning centers here in Columbus, Ohio that are associated with the Somali community. As you know, Nick Shirley put out a bombshell report about all these fraudulent daycare facilities in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So we wanted to come out to Columbus, Ohio and investigate what might be going on in the second largest Somali community in the United States of America. So this place here is the first place we're going to knock, and we're going to see if anybody picks up or answers the door. Let's see. So, it's locked. We're ringing the doorbell here. Knocking on the door. Nobody's picking up. So we're not sure what the hell's going on here, but we're gonna get out of here. Now there's somebody over there. How you doing, sir? I'm sure you see the reports over the weekend about all the daycare centers in Minnesota. We just wanted to see what was going on. Did you know anything about this place here?
It's a daycare center owned by Somalians and stuff like that.
Do you ever see any kids there?
No, because they use the back door, so I won't know if they is.
They use the back door.
Yeah, I never seen nobody come in here, but they use the back door.
But have you ever seen any kid? You live around here?
Yeah, on this building right here.
Oh, you're in this building?
Yeah.
You're in this building too? Hey, let me ask you, have you ever seen any kids in this place here?
No, not that I know of. They use the back, so I've never seen nobody come out the front.
You've never seen anybody over there?
No, not at all.
I just seen it, the building itself. I've never seen nobody come out the building or go in the building.
So we came to the back, just like those guys suggested, and there's nothing here. You know, we can keep poking around, but there's so many of these centers to go to. We're just getting started. So we're
going to stop right here and just say, look at that place. Look at that. Looks like the music is still kicking too. Sorry, still learning the ropes here of navigating all of these things. I'll try to turn that music down for you. But look at what that environment looks like. Would you ever drop your child off at that place in that location? I mean, that looks like a place where crack is smoked underneath those steps. I don't know where in Columbus this is, but that's just what it looks like to me. That looks like the kind of a place where I would never bring my child that needs daycare. Same thing with the one in Minneapolis that we saw, where it's basically a pothole covered parking lot, or it looked like an old abandoned property where there's no grass, there's no playground area, there's no swing set, there's nothing, there's not even windows in the building. Children aren't allowed to look outside and see sun and flowers. When they're in daycare all day long, there's no windows. Some of these places are just so obvious by the display that they're making. They're just so obviously not environments for kids, and that's not. I don't believe that to be supposition. I believe that to be very easily provable. No parent would drop their kids off, and the fact that no one has ever seen kids in those places, including whistleblowers, including people who are investigating this kind of on the down low. There are no kids there ever. Until what? Until somebody does an expose like the one Nick Shirley did. Suddenly, there were kids showing up at the Leering Center, the Learing Leering Center, because they couldn't spell learning, because they speak Somalian and not English, and they're not teaching kids jack squat because there's no kids. Suddenly, then a bunch of kids showed up there the day after the Nick Shirley investigation and reveal, which, by the way, is now up to 128 million views on X alone, another 2 million on YouTube. So you do understand the point here. So we're going to investigate this further, or at least we're going to be sharing information from investigations that have been done already. Before I bring in my guest, as you can see on the screen right now, live stream moving to Rumble in 5 minutes. What we're doing is we're trying to make sure that everybody finds the Rumble hub. So if you like to watch this on my Facebook page, thank you, but you're only going to watch the first 30 minutes of it. If you like to watch this podcast, this